I've never shared the real reason behind my content creator journey publicly. To most people, it seems like I only started filming videos and writing newsletters about 2 months ago, but in reality, this has been a 7-year journey. 7 years of intense personal transformation filled with loss, grief, disillusionment, and a lot of facing my own fears. Basically, lots of ugly, messy stuff. Through it all, I held on to my dreams, and in this current era of my life, I am able to fully embody my authentic self, my creative expressions, like the videos that I have been producing, and I hope this inspires you to do the same. Which means rediscovering yourself, remembering yourself, and most importantly, returning to yourself. Now, let's go back in time, and let me tell you the story of my journey. Yeah, my throat is not feeling well today, so just bear with me, guys. I felt like it all started when I first graduated from university at around the age of 22. Now, a lot of people don't talk about it, but the early 20s for most of us was messy as hell. Because, I mean, it makes sense, right? Now you have to figure out your own life. You have to figure out which path you want to go on, if the career you've chosen when you were like 17 or 18 is actually good for you, right for you, and now you're the only person who's gonna get your shits together. And for me personally, I felt like I had this early onset quarter-life crisis where I was asking all kinds of existential questions like, what am I here to do? What is the purpose of life? Etc., etc. Right after I graduated, I did get a job right away in a French-speaking psychiatric hospital. I was working as a clinical dietitian for the pediatrics population. And a lot of you will be like, wow, that's really cool, but I'm telling you, it was so challenging. And I have already outlined some of the challenges in one of my previous videos on the power of consistency, which you can check out. And it was a very challenging time for me. At the same time that I was working in that job, I applied to 3 different kinds of master's program and med school. Because instinctively, I knew that school was a safer bet. School, from the age of kindergarten all the way until the age of high school and post-secondary, created this illusion of safety because it really gives you this kind of cocoon-like environment where you're protected from the unknown and the unpredictability of real life. All of y'all know that real life is not like school at all. It is more brutal. It is more freedom, yes, but now you have to choose. But how do you know if the choices that you've made are actually right for you? Right now you have to make your own decisions, and now you have to define the standard of living that you want to go for. So yes, the reason why I applied to those master's program and med school, which by the way I got into all of them, was because of this strong fear of the unknown. And because I got accepted to all of them, now that created another challenge because now I had to choose. But how can I know which choice was actually good for me? How could I know if I was making the right decisions? Obviously, I didn't choose any of them, or else I wouldn't be where I am today. And for a lot of you who also went into a professional program, you probably also can share the sentiment that our programs kind of give us this impression that our profession would give us life satisfaction, career stability, and that once we graduate, we're pretty much set. We're pretty much guaranteed a stable job, stable income, well-respected field, and life will be good, right? But I felt a strong sense of disconnect when I first started my career. Of course, my first job was challenging, but beside that, I really felt like the institution, the bureaucracy, the invisible hierarchies, they all stifled a really essential part of me, which was my creativity. Now, at the time, I was one of the only people in my workplace who didn't have a master's degree nor a PhD. In fact, I was surrounded by people with a PhD. Already as a young person who just graduated and surrounded by all these very, very smart people, I felt a profound need to prove myself. I felt like in order to be respected, in order for my opinions to be heard and taken seriously, I had to do more work on myself, right? So in my free time outside of work, I took a lot of trainings. I took a lot of opportunities to enhance my professional knowledge, to really hone in my consulting counseling skills because I was doing nutritional counseling at the time, and this really left me with no time nor energy to do creative, fun stuff that I really liked. And at the same time, like I mentioned before, I was also asking existential questions for myself. I was trying to figure out the purpose of my life, and at the same time, things were happening in my own family which felt really stressful, chaotic. So in general, it was a very chaotic period of my life. Thinking back, I would call that period of my life the dark night of the soul. And during that period of chaos and confusion, I also instinctively turned to books to look for directions and look for answers. Now, I have been a reader my entire life, from as long as I was able to read, basically. And in one of my recent newsletters, I also mentioned that I have always been a reader and storyteller. Back in kindergarten, I was already the de facto storyteller amongst my friends. So when I returned to books again as a young adult, I was of course not looking for stories or fictions. I was really looking for the people who have had enough lived experience and knowledge and wisdom to convey messages in a clear and guiding sort of way. And I definitely was lucky enough to find the right books at the right time, which as a result definitely affected the way that I view the world, the way I set up my value system, my belief system. Overall, they had a really positive and profound effect on my personal life. And I thought about mentioning those titles to you today, but then I thought about it, that would make this video extremely long because I can talk a long time about all of these amazing books, amazing authors. So I'm gonna remember to make a video specifically on the kinds of books that I would recommend to you if ever you are curious about, refining your value system, finding yourself and figuring out your life. It may seem like a lot of work, but it's totally worth it. And this is something that I would say to people who would listen, anybody who would listen. Just start reading. Start reading, because the biggest impact that books had on me was that they helped me remove a lot of limiting beliefs. Books help me expand my sense of self. A lot of the times, we are our biggest obstacles and barriers. We can really be stuck in our mental rut because those are the mental paths that we take over and over and over again based on past conditioning, past beliefs, past experiences, but maybe those mental paths and way of thinking are no longer serving you. But how do you get out of them? Well, you have to replace them with a new set of beliefs and thinking and system. And the only way to do so is to give your brain new information, right? You need to learn from new perspectives. You need to learn from people who have had way more experiences than you. And this is where books come in handy. And in fact, there is a Chinese expression. There's always a Chinese expression. There is a Chinese expression that teaches you exactly that. And the expression is, 读万卷书，行万里路. Obviously, I'm not going to go into details today, but this is something that I definitely need to make a video on. It literally translates into read 10,000 books and walk 10,000 miles. The deeper meaning of this expression is that it teaches you to combine gaining wisdom from books and gaining wisdom from lived experiences. But more on that in another video. In my personal experience, after reading hundreds of books and hundreds of articles that are thought-provoking and spending thousands of hours listening to podcasts made by creative people, business people, psychologists, spiritual teachers, and a lot of brilliant thinkers from different fields, I was able to see patterns between seemingly unrelated things a lot faster and a lot more clearly. And it really allowed me to develop this system of making decisions more efficiently, because now I have a much more clear and concise and useful and supportive value and belief system for my own good. And I definitely noticed this very interesting pattern of most people just stop reading after their post-secondary education. I mean, it kind of makes sense because a lot of intense college and university programs kind of trained you to associate the act of reading with boring textbooks, boring analysis reports, and very rigid, sterile scientific or business reports. And when the language and the words don't inspire, the mind falls asleep. Now, tie it back to why I started this channel. Well, the reason why I started Chinese Inside Out and I decided to really start this by telling you stories from Chinese culture, Chinese language, and telling you my own stories is because I want to revive the language of imagination. Stories are very different from your formal lectures and formal official presentations. Stories use words differently. They use proses, they use poetic language, they use the kind of language that can reach you beyond your logical mind into your heart. And what I'm doing here with this channel and with my newsletters is that I am using my natural gifts as a storyteller to reach you on a deeper level in order to help you feel a deeper sense of connection with the Chinese culture, with the Chinese language, and with yourself. And this is going to be applicable for a lot of cultures because stories tells you what the people who came before you learned through their own experiences. Sometimes they're told in a fictional way, sometimes they're told as real-life historical stories. And a lot of the Chinese stories that I will be telling you in the future will convey a really similar message. The sense of belonging does not come from external accolades. It really has to start from within. And on the topic of belonging, I can already share with you some questions that you can ask yourself to assess your current level of self-identity and sense of belonging. Are you at peace with the choices that you've made so far? Are you truly satisfied with the life that you have built so far? And are you genuinely proud of the way that you make your decisions? And stories are at the heart and soul of the Chinese culture. Really, we're talking about more than 2,000 years of folk tales, mythology, historical stories, and historical fictions. The fundamental values, ways of being, and the traditional sense of identity, belonging, and community is passed down generations of people through storytelling. Now, I'm not saying that the traditional values and belief systems are necessarily good to keep in our modern life, but understanding where some of your adopted beliefs and ways of being came from will definitely help you establish a stronger sense of self. My ultimate mission with this content creator journey with Chinese Inside Out is to use my skills and my gifts as a storyteller to guide you home to your cultural roots. And you gotta learn some important life lessons along the way. Why not? A disclaimer I must make is that I'm by no means perfect. I'm by no means already the master of all of these life lessons and the things conveyed by the stories. I'm very well still in the journey of integrating some of those important lessons into my own life. But I just felt like, this kind of meaningful journey is better taken not alone, but with a community of like-minded people. Now, I've definitely went through quite a lot of struggles and learned a lot of lessons on my own during my early 20s especially, but one important lesson that keeps coming back to me is the power of community. It is very important to lift each other up and help each other understand that, in fact, we're never alone. And on that note, I hope that you enjoyed my story from today. I hope it resonated with you, and I hope that you have the courage to fully embrace your complex multicultural identity and that you have the courage to rediscover yourself, discover every single wonderful thing about yourself. And if you like the video, definitely share this with a friend if you feel like it will be helpful for them to listen to the story and also feel less alone in their own journey. As always, don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned for my next video. Bye for now.